Do me a favor again, all cell phones on vibrate or silent. If you're sitting up front, you should not have your electronic device for me. Real quick, as we're going to start the next round, the gentleman in the back said he voted for affirmative because of, go ahead, sir. Why did you decide for affirmative, by the way?
They spoke louder and more clearer and had more eye contact with the crowd.
Okay, so he judged you actually in your full debating skills. I ended up going with negative because of the content that was also presented, more so when they honed in on, like I said, it didn't include the 50 states, it didn't include all men and so forth, but you all still had a good argument. So you see how things can be swayed different ways, but all you all did great. As we started the next one, I don't have the mic on, we have the Constitution. So for the affirmative, please stand. No, I don't, because I'll turn it on, don't worry. That's what we're saying about projecting your voice. I don't need it. Okay, thank you. For the negative, please stand. All right, so we will start with affirmative, of course. You will present your warrant, and you will have 5 minutes, and I will cut on the mic. Who has the warrant for affirmative?
Our group is in favor of the Constitution because of the stability it provides to America. Following the First Amendment of freedom of speech, also we are in favor of Amendments 24 and 15 as it provides the right to vote regardless of race, gender, and whether your taxes are paid or not. Our team is also in favor of Amendment 6 as it provides all citizens a speedy and fair trial with the choice to obtain counsel. Last but not least, we are in favor of Amendment 8, where it protects all citizens from cruel and unusual punishments and excessive amounts of bails or fines.
For affirmative, you have the grounds. You have up to 4 minutes.
According to point 1 about the First Amendment, it gives us the right to express ourselves without fear of punishment. It also gives us the access to information and protection from prior restraints. It goes, Congress shall not make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise. Therefore, the freedom of speech, press, assembly, and the right of petition the government and seek redress of grievances proclaim that citizens have the right to call the government to account. Moving on to point 2 about the 24th Amendment, still in favor. All men are created equally, said by Thomas Jefferson himself, written in the Declaration of Independence. Yet a few years later, Constitution, his fellow founding fathers designed slaves as 3/5 of human beings, which brings up the point. The genius of our Constitution, the founding fathers who created it, is that they knew why it was a far from perfect document, just as they were far from perfect people. This is why they gave us the Constitution the power to amend itself, to change for the better both the government and the country. The 24th Amendment was also important to the Civil Rights Movement, as it ended mandatory poll taxes and prevented many African Americans to vote. For example, even though the right to vote was guaranteed by the 15th Amendment, several southern states passed laws that imposed a variety of conditions on Black Americans and denied them the right. Many Southerners defended the tax by saying that the property qualifications was as old as America itself, but civil rights activists countered that because the tax fell disproportionately on Blacks, which violated the 14th Amendment. Point 3, Amendment 6. As with all amendments, the Constitution is a way of protecting individuals against the violation of inalienable rights by those in position of authority. The Sixth Amendment of the Constitution is important because it guarantees crucial aspects of due process that the legal procedures that the state must observe when bringing a criminal action against a person. To put into basic terms, the Sixth Amendment guarantees that a person accused of a crime cannot be tucked away in jail somewhere or tried before a secret court. The guilt of innocence of an individual in a criminal case is determined by a jury drawn for one peer. The person must be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation so that they might contest it.
Next, for the affirmative, you have the claim, you have up to 4 minutes.
We are in favor of the Constitution because of its importance. It protects individual freedom and its fundamental principles given to the United States. The Constitution places the government powers in the hands of citizens. It limits the power of the government and establishes a system of checks and balances.
For the negative, you now begin with the backing. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. We believe that the U.S. Constitution is prejudiced. 1840, Dred Scott attempted to purchase his freedom from Emerson. He was turned down and denied his constitutional right to be free. 1955, Emmett Till was brutally beaten at the age of 14 for being black and making a white woman feel uncomfortable. If you haven't heard, she recently came forward saying that he never even did it, but of course, no justice for that. But an all-white jury decided his murder was not guilty. 2012, Trayvon Martin was murdered walking home from a store. 2014, Eric Garner passed away due to a police officer having him in a chokehold. But yet, if you look up the cause of death, first thing you see is a heart attack, not a homicide. 2015, Sandra Bland. 2016, Terrence Crutcher. October 12, 2019, Ms. Jefferson was shot and killed by a white police officer inside of her own home. You ask, what do these individuals have in common? Every one of these people were failed by the U.S. Constitution for no other reason than being a person of color. Black people today still fight hard for their rights and are still trying to gain their freedom from a document that is dated from 1787, written by all white men that owned slaves. If we handed them a piece of paper to a lawyer and it reads, on October 16, 2019, in the state of Pennsylvania, the document would have to be edited for immediately to make the correction to the word Pennsylvania. How is it so that U.S. Constitution can be held to high standards if it contains numerous spelling errors? We should not abide by a document that was written by illiterate men or a document that had hardly changed. The U.S. Constitution was signed in 1787. Why is it that it took until the year 1920 for women to gain any rights? 133 years, 5 generations of women to be forced to stay at home because of the white man said they must, that they did not need independence of free reign. It took Congress until 1972, 52 years, to grant the equality of rights based on gender. These men told us that we were not allowed to speak up, remain a career, or even worthy of being alone, which made us unworthy.
For the negative, next, you have the warrant. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. Our group is not in favor of the Constitution. Our opponent stated that all men are equal. All men are not equal. The Constitution has proved itself to be biased towards females. Do you know how many times women has been mentioned in the Constitution? 0. In Minor versus Happerstat, the court found that while women were indeed citizens, voting was not one of the privileges of citizenship, and the states could deny women the right to vote. In 1894, Belva Lockwood filed a lawsuit to force Virginia to allow her to practice law. She was already practicing law in the District of Columbia, so she wanted to practice law in Virginia. In the 14th Amendment, it states that citizens could practice law. The Supreme Court ruled that the word citizen referred to only males, not females. According to point 2, there were misspelled words such as Pennsylvania and choose. The Constitution could not be explained correctly due to incorrect grammar. Therefore, the citizens should not have been held accountable for the contents. They didn't understand what was going on with the misspelled grammar. The third point is the Constitution was prejudiced. The Constitution was written by white slave-holding men. Many years later after that, it was proclaimed that all men to be free and equal. Race-based slavery would not be in the United States. Today, we recognize that moment, but we are confused about the states of slavery under the original Constitution. The Constitution affirmed African Americans to be worth only 3/5 of human race. Chief Justice Roger Taney made a claim in Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857, that the founders of the Constitution regarded blacks so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit.
Next, for the negative, we have the grounds. You have up to 4 minutes.
In the Constitution, we could take but so much from our people, such as the women's suffrage movement. It takes women's rights to vote. The suffrage movements were made by middle-class white women. Truth was the only black woman to take part in the conference in 1848, and her purpose there was to illustrate the ways in which black women were often excluded from our understanding womanhood. In 1975, article White Racism, Black Crime, and American Justice, Robert Staples argued that discrimination had also had a big part in the Constitution. He said that the legal system was made of white men to protect the right and to keep blacks down. And years later, William Wilbanks stated that the sources and studies shown that between whites of black race, more than black crime today was caused by some whites, but they'll never get put down for it. Today, judges see black men come into the courtroom, they tend not to play fair. A white man can do the same crime as a black man but get double or triple time, and it's not fair. And another thing, such as people as Trayvon Martin, Sandra Lee, and Eric Garner, they were all killed but never got justice. Is it because they're black? We'll never know, but once again, we know that it was built by the U.S. Constitution.
Next, for the negative, you have the qualifier. You have up to 3 minutes. Adjust the mic if you need to, Ashley.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
Our group disagrees with the U.S. Constitution because we as women knows what it feels like to look down upon while pursuing a job. We know what it's like to walk down the street wearing comfortable clothing and still be told that it's our fault that we're getting catcalled. We walk through a door at a conference to be meet at a table of white men and have to turn our head around and hope that they don't speak up. Let's see. Sorry. It took 133 years to make a difference for women. Even in 2019, cases of assault, rape, and even murder are dismissed or slapped on the wrist because the Constitution isn't withheld. Women of color are dismissed and told they're not worthy because the U.S. Constitution, signed 232 years ago, excluded their rights to be human beings. Black men are killed regularly, and the Constitution is suddenly flipped over and acts like nobody ever signed it. The Constitution was documented made by white men to benefit white men. We hear Black Lives Matter and peaceful protests ending in violence because the First Amendment is only there if it proceeds to a Nazi screaming explicit words across the street to intimidate somebody. The freedom of speech is only free if you are a white man.
Next, for the negative, you have the claim. You have up to 4 minutes.
Our group remains against the Constitution because women were not recognized as people under the law. We will not celebrate a Constitution It treated blacks as less than humans, that left women out and had poor grammar. If a woman was married, her legal existence was bound up with that of her husband. When a number of women tried to vote, they were denied. Susan B. Anthony was arrested and convicted for doing so. The Constitution contains 4,543 words, including signatures. Many of these words were misspelled. The Constitution has been under attack for many years, but the pressure has increased in the last few months because of the founding documents' critical flaws. Because the Constitution was written by white men during that era, the progress at their work is sexist, racism, and rut. While concluding this debate or group remains against the U.S. Constitution.
Next, we have affirmative. You have backing. You have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. According to the First Amendment of the Congress passed the law for freedom of speech in September 25, 1789. An establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Also the 15th Amendment and the 24th Amendment, the rights of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of bondage, which the 24th Amendment has had little direct impact since the ending of poll taxes. According to the courts of ruling in Harper, it legalized minor and contemporary lawsuits surrounding voting rights. According to the 8th Amendment in 1791 to the Constitution of the United States, part of the Bill of Rights that the limits that statutes that may be imposed by the criminal justice system on those accused or convicted of criminal behavior.
Next, for the affirmative, you have the warrant. You have up to 5 minutes.
Here are some real-life examples that prove in history how the Constitution has made a positive impact. North Carolina now has a law against registered sex offenders. They cannot have access to any type of social media, which goes along with the First Amendment. In 1966, according to a Virginia lady, she filed a court case against the state. The state would not let her vote because she owed $1.50 in taxes, which violates the 24th Amendment. She won the case and made her vote. According to a man named Ford, in 1986, he got sentenced to death because of a murder he committed. He then later was deemed mental and got his sentence reduced because of being deemed insane. It also violated the 8th Amendment. In California, a former police officer was sentenced by a judge with the maximum sentence. According to the 6th Amendment, you have a right to a fair trial with a jury. The Supreme Court listened to the case and gave the officer a fair trial in front of a jury. These cases show the importance of the Constitution and where we are with it today.
All right, next for the affirmative, we have the warrant. You have up until 5 minutes. My bad, we just did the warrant. You have the rebuttal. You have up until 5 minutes. Thanks.
Good morning. As I group is in favor of the Constitution. I would like to thank all of my team members for stating these wonderful facts. One of my colleagues has stated how the Constitution has had a huge impact on providing stability for America, which defines the state being stable. The Constitution was approving, forming a better union, establishing justice, ensuring domestic tranquility, providing common defense against our nation, and promoting general welfare, and many more. The Constitution protects us from harsh and cruel punishments, as my colleagues have stated. It was found in Amendment 8. September 17, 1787 is the day the Constitution was signed, but as of June 21st, 1788, this Constitution was effective for all of our U.S. citizens and approved by 13 states, which is now effective by all 50 states as of today. We are in favor of the Constitution because of its protection of our individual freedom for the United States, and I'll always remember this quote from the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't guarantee happiness, only peace.
All right, that concludes our second debate. You can laugh, that's fine. All right, so before we go any further. All right, again, we have to do our vote. So, if you were for the affirmative, dealing with the Constitution, please stand, please. The peers stand, yes, if you're for them.
Thank you.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm confused because I know when one of y'all went, it was something like one of y'all went against.
So she just gave you valid feedback, which we're gonna do at the end, but thank you for
Oh,
pointing that out.
wait.
No, you're fine. All right, so she just told you why then people haven't stood for you, and just, this is a learning process.
No, she told us why she didn't stand for
Right, but she probably, but yes, she did, she spoke for herself, but it could be applied to everyone at the same time, maybe. So if you are for the negative when it comes to the Constitution, please stand. Okay, 4. All right. Okay. All right, let me ask our guest, sir, who would you, and you cannot be biased because your wife is up here. Who would you, yeah, you gotta go home, but still, be honest. Who would you be in favor of?
Honestly, negative this time.
Negative?
Yeah, they was, I found it more informative. They went more, it gave more details, and they spoke clearly also again. So, give it to them this time.
All right, so we'll do that. All right, let's do a debate recap. With that, I'm proud of everyone again.
Yeah, good job, y'all.
Everyone, because you came with research skills. Yeah. And another thing is you all showed up. That was another thing that was important. Everyone has to work on when they speak to read and look up. So always start to be familiarized with what you're presenting to your audience. So always look down, look up and around, and back down. So that will be for anything that you do in life that you have to speak. For the first team that went, your strongest speaker I felt was Hannah. For the second team that went, I felt all of you all were actually strong. For the ones up here now, Miss Dolores would be the strongest, I would say. Ashley would be next, and then Trinae. Just slow down a little bit, Trinae, and enunciate a little bit more. As far as to my left right now, the strongest one in your team, I felt unique, but slow down, and also Rachel, okay? So what did you all, first let's do this. What did you all like about the debate? We'll do that first. Don't worry, I would say dislike, but let's talk about what you like first.
Can I start with
Just in general, the debate process all together. What did you like? We'll do first.
They had all their facts together, like really well. I really like that.
And about the whole process. You're not talking about any teams, just the whole process, what you like. No, you're fine.
I'm gonna start with the group right now first. I feel like both y'all did really good. Y'all did really good. Y'all had facts. Y'all had facts. That's my thing. But overall, the debate was good. I feel like we did good, y'all ladies.
Yeah, the big on Wednesday.
Yeah, I feel like we did.
Would anybody else like to go, like, what did they like? We're gonna do like first, we'll talk about dislike. What did you like?
I like, because I learned a lot about the Constitution stuff, and some stuff I didn't really know or familiar with. So yeah, I learned
it was in the format of Lincoln Douglas, but we had more time. Since we didn't have that much time in this group, because of things that transpired at the beginning, is why I ended up doing the Toolman, but also so you could see the terms that you will use in a Toolman essay, in case you receive that in any other English classes. So you are correct with the format Lincoln Douglas, you usually kind of go back and forth. What else was it that you, oh, the topic. The reason why I picked the topic is because when you go to original debate, you always do not pick your topic. They always pick it for you. And I wanted to make sure you had content you could actually use and debate and research with, even though everything you can actually find content and research with. What else did you not like then? And be honest, this is fun. This is free. Yeah, we're still recording, but be you. Be your honest conversation. What did you not like?
I think we need more time.
You're going to bed, speaking of the class. Women, you know, they don't think good.
Oh, you mean like
More time to work on it.
Hannah just said you had 2 weeks, which is true. Same thing with your essay. She's right, 2 weeks. Anybody else? What did you not like? Yes, sir.
No males spoke. Why no
Oh,
males?
they're Wednesday. They have prison reform.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. That's the reason.
You gotta come at
Yeah.
All right. What did you?
You gotta come at Wednesday, show your support.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The dressing up part was to get you ready for the real world, business casual. We always come chill. I even come chill, you know. It was more so when you also project and speak, you would speak with confidence. And the same thing when you go to a business meeting or we have to do an interview, when we do our portfolio interviews, I'm asking the same thing, that you dress up. What did you learn about yourself? Anything in this process that anybody would like to share? I know men, you haven't gone yet, you'll get some of the same questions. For the ladies that have gone, what did you learn about yourself, if you would like to share?
I feel like in college, when I was scared to speak, like in high school, I wouldn't. Like, I learned that I wanna take public speaking to, speak my career.
No, you do not.
She didn't mean that, let her speak. Let her speak her truth. Go ahead, Jayla.
Basically, I'm just saying, I want to take public speaking, just for, you know that you run through what you're reading and everything.
Anyone else? What did you learn about yourself? Yes, ma'am.
I like how we all encouraged each other. We were all scared. We all did not know what to do. We didn't know what to say. We didn't, but we were texting and checking on each other. Like, no, we don't have to do it. Just like right now, we're gonna do it. We can't do it. So we called each other.
And another reason why I had you do group work, because you will get further off in college, business world, again, and have to do group work, even work with people that you do not like or that do not carry their own weight, but you still have to work with them. So that was another task in what you all were doing. Did you feel you learned more research skills or how to navigate more through research? What about your reading and your writing? What about your organization? Because I think at the beginning someone came to me and said my organization is off. I said you do the same thing with essays. Did you notice that in organization when you were working on it? Anyone?
Yeah, it was the same.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of you all. We can conclude early today. Gentlemen, Wednesday is your time. Same place.